I was asked to look into making a couple of tables out of some old furnace grates. Um, Cast steel, a couple of tabs here and might be able to use to support it, a screw there. Seemed like kind of a nice project.
After giving the grade a little thought, I came up with this sketch, and after a little consultation, it was decided that this would work. I remember reading in grade school that Orville and Wilbur Wright's mother told him, if you get it right down on paper, it will turn out right. Well, judging from their success, I've always decided to follow her advice. Now, in examining this drawing, you'll notice that I didn't draw the top squared off with the edge of the paper. I did this on purpose so that I could get a true length of the legs, since that is the part that is the most critical in this project and the part that requires the most work. Secondly, you'll notice that I made the feet extend beyond the table's top. This is to add stability to the table and to help keep it from tipping over. I've decided I'll do something with the shape of the feet so that they're not just cut off square. Notice that the table is rectangular and not square, and that it is 18 inches tall, which is a good height for a side table.
For the center ring on the table, I plan on using this piece of pipe, which I have. It's 1.5 inch galvanized pipe, and I'm going to cut it with my Sawzall. Now the problem with using a Sawzall is it's hard to make a nice square cut. You can follow where your cut is on this side, but you can't really see what's happening on the other side of the pipe. At any rate, what I need to have is I need to have a line which is perpendicular to the side of the pipe that goes all the way around. Now that's not easy to put that line on there, except there is a method that you can use by taking a piece of paper. You put the paper on the pipe, and as you bring the paper along, all you have to do is line up the edges so that they come together. And once you've done that, that line goes perfectly square all the way around. Then you can just follow that with a pencil. On the inside of my vise, the jaws are knurled, as you can see here, which are little ridges. And the purpose of this knurling is to give a good grip to whatever the vise is holding on to. The downside of that is it often leaves marks on whatever you're working with. I don't want that in this case of my project. So my vise does not have removable jaws on there, so I have to do something to cover those up, and I have decided to use pieces of aluminum angle because that will cover the knurling, and yet it'll still be a nice flat surface. They tend to fall off, so to get around that problem, I use my hot glue gun. Hot glue, when it was first invented, was supposed to be the cure-all for all gluing projects, and it didn't turn out that way because it's not a very strong glue. However, it is excellent for craft projects and for temporary gluing situations, as this is here. So that's what I use to hold my jaws in place.
This is the hot rolled steel I picked up from my local steel supplier. The square rod is 1/2 inch square, and the angle is 3/4 by 3/4 by 1/8. All three pieces are 10 feet long, and the total cost $24.
Now the overall length of the leg before it has been twisted and curved is 30 inches. So since my ring is going to go in the center, I'll make a mark in the center of this right here. And now I want to have a little bit of flat spot in there for the ring to weld onto. So I'm going to make a 2-inch allowance for that to go in there. So make a mark at 14 and one at 16. So this part here will be flat. This will have a twist in it. Now it's important that I have the same dimension on both ends, because when I twist it, I want the twist to be equal. So now you can see, if you follow this edge right here, if I make a line on this and just go right around with it, see, I've only made one revolution, but I have 4 distinct turns in there. Here I'm going to make a full-scale drawing of what we're going to build, so I'll have a template to work from. So taking from this drawing, you see this leg right here, that's what I want to reproduce, so I'll have a nice pattern to match up to. So first of all, I start with a baseline. And then I need a perpendicular from that. Now this is going to represent the center of the leg, and I'll have the top and the bottom. So I need to have, since I'm 18 inches, like I need to have 9 inches in each direction from here. And now I need you to have an arc on there. I think I'll put on half of the thickness of the pipe also. And now I have the section of the pipe drawn in there. So now I'm going to find my radius point. With my travel point's already set up to the right dimension I'm looking for. Now that is the outside of the radius. Now I have to go in a ½ an inch closer to get the inside radius. Now that is the profile that I want to fit each one of the legs to. Now because this wrought iron is twisted, you see that the shape gets, the curve gets distorted too, and that needs to be straightened out. One of the nice things about using wrought iron is you don't have to be right on the money and it'll still look pretty good. So I'm going to attempt to straighten these out a bit. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, I'm ready to put the feet on the legs. I put a mark on here which represents halfway up. This is 9 inches off of the floor, halfway up. And I'm going to attach this angle on there at that same point. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is so that I get the foot to go in the right direction. Now, the final shaping will be done on top of this piece of steel here, and this will make up the difference. So I want to make sure that it's going this way, not going up or with a direction. So now I'm ready to begin. So now I've got my angles cut and they're ready to assemble. However, before I put them together, I need to put a couple notches in there. You remember earlier I was talking about using these 2 tabs on the grate to help hold the piece on and keep it from moving around. And so I need to put those notches in now. It'd be much easier to put them in before I assemble it. I like to use the blue tape because it gives you a nice surface to lay out your marks on. And these are the 2 notches that I had to put in there. And as I lay them on the grate, you see that they line up pretty well. So now I'll go ahead and cut those notches in there. So now here I have the angle that is notched in the 2 places, and let's see how it fits on there. Yeah, that should do fine. Okay, I'm getting ready to start assembling this table, and I made up this jig. The center post here will hold the ring in the right location on there. The legs are in the right spot. I plan on welding this first and then put the frame on top. These will all have to be trimmed a little bit, but I think that this would be the ways to go. I think I'm ready to start doing a little welding. Now I'm ready to start putting the angle frame together. Make sure that we're nice and square here. I've taken the table and cut off the extra pieces on the legs. I've put the angle frame on top, positioned that where it should be. When I was making the jig to hold the table all together, I put a line on here to show where the table framework should be. And as I take my framing square and lay it down here, you see that has come out pretty close, so I'm happy with that. Another thing I was concerned about was how level it was going to be across there, And as I put my level on there, you can see from the bubble that it's pretty close, and I'm happy with that also. The third thing that is of concern was the overall height of it. I'm shooting for 18 inches. And as I put my tape on here, you see I've actually grown a little bit. But there again, since this is the wrought iron, and I mentioned before, you can be off a little bit and it still looks okay. So I'm happy with the way it's coming out. So now all I have left to do is to do a little welding to attach this onto here. And then I got some cleanup, then painting, and then it should be pretty much done. Okay, now it's time to put the hole in the grate. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to use these tabs to hold on the one side, but then to hold the opposite side, I'm going to need to put one screw in right here. So there's a little bit of a groove where you see on this other side here, and I want to come inside that. So the dimension I'm going to be using is a little over 9/16 right there. And my overall length is 13 1/4. So that's about 6 5/8. So right there, that's where I'm going to put my hole. You notice that I put a little center mark in here. I put that in there to keep the drill from drifting around while I'm trying to put the hole in. Now because this is going to be a tabletop, I don't want the screw to stick up above this surface. So I'm going to have to countersink that to use a flathead screw. That looks like it'll do fine. So here's the table all set up, ready to use. Looks like it turned out to be a good project.